All right, today we're going to talk about a figure that most people, see as a total saint, Mother Teresa. But what if there's another story, a completely different one? We're about to dive into a really critical perspective, and just so we're clear, this is all based on one single, pretty controversial source. So let's get right into it. For most people around the world, the name Mother Teresa basically means selflessness. She's seen as this global icon of charity, of compassion, someone who gave everything to help the poor. That's the image, right? A modern-day saint. And that's the story we've heard for decades. But what if that's not the complete picture? The source we're looking at today doesn't just ask a few tough questions. No, it lays out a story that completely challenges, well, pretty much everything about that celebrated image. Okay, let's start with section 1. Where is this information coming from? The source. So everything we're discussing today, it all comes from the transcript of one specific YouTube video. It's called The Dark Truth of Mother Teresa. And the way this source builds its argument is by using a set of really pointed, really powerful keywords that create a very, very severe critique of her work.
All right, on to section 2. Let's take a look inside the care facilities she ran.
The source we're looking at really zooms in on these three types of places: orphanages, nursing homes, and hospitals. And according to this source, these facilities, which were, the heart of her mission, were actually in pretty bad shape, with some questionable practices that, it claims, led to a lot of unnecessary suffering.
Now for section 3, and this is where the source makes its most shocking and controversial comparison.
So just how harsh is this critique really? Well, let me put it this way. The language the source uses to describe what was allegedly happening in those facilities, it's pretty shocking. I want to be absolutely clear here. What you're seeing are the exact keywords used in the source transcript itself. The text brings up Adolf Hitler, concentration camps, and Holocaust, and it connects them all to her controversies. This comparison is really the core of the source's whole argument. Which brings us to our last section, section 4, a legacy in conflict. So what we have here are two narratives that are just polar opposites. On one side, you've got the common perception, the icon of charity. And on the other, you have the source's critique, which paints this picture of massive controversy, using the most extreme comparisons you can imagine. These two versions of the same person, they just can't exist at the same time without some serious conflict. So the whole point of this explainer isn't to try and prove or disprove what the source is claiming. It's really just to lay out the fact that this other, dramatically different story exists. We're just here to understand what that specific critique actually says. And all of this leaves us with a much, much bigger question, doesn't it? When we're faced with such totally conflicting stories about someone so famous and celebrated, what do we do with that? It really makes you think about how history gets written, how legacies are built, and what it all means when those legacies are seriously challenged.